Good morning, everybody. Robert from the Red Dragon School of Martial Arts. Today, we're going to be speaking about Tai Chi, and in particular, the opening. When we think about practicing Tai Chi, I always like to try to prepare you a little bit for wrapping our minds around what we're actually trying to do. And when you think about Tai Chi, the word itself suggests harmonizing, right? To try to bring things into a certain degree of balance. And we use Tai Chi as a method of doing that within ourselves. So each of the actions embody a sense of emptiness and fullness in a cycle that naturally has a harmonizing effect. So before we begin, let's warm our bodies up a little bit and put the structure in place and see how we sort of shape and manage our body throughout the process. So let's take a look at the footwork a little bit, starting from the very bottom of the action. What we'll do is we'll spread our feet nice and wide. Now, again, when you think about what you're attempting to do during all of the movements of Tai Chi is that we remain stable and we remain connected. We're trying to work with energy. And in working with energy, what we're doing is we're trying to connect that energy and we're trying to guide it through a series of actions. The side effect is that we're actually going to drive the blood and harmonize the circulation in our body. We're trying to minimize any stagnation or interference in the circulation of our body, both of our energy and of our blood. So in this posture, what we like to do is to shape our body that includes basically the essential ingredients. So in summary, we want to lift our head raised. We want to brighten up our gaze to elevate and charge up that energy internally. Right? We're going to raise up our spirit to bring up our resources. Moving down the body, we want to make sure that our shoulders are rested all the way down. Let them kind of settle a little bit. The chest is sunk. Take your fingers and push in on your sternum. Now, with the shoulders and elbows forward, you can very easily feel your spine. Moving down your body, lower the waistline. So in summary, we're trying to open the gate of the body. So lower the waistline down a little bit, and you immediately find that you feel your feet, right? Right away, it's very easy to feel the springiness in the soles of our feet. So while in this posture, what I want to do is I want to just try to move my spine without moving my pelvis. So I want to feel the difference between my spine and my pelvis. And when we say the waist, oftentimes we think of the waist as a ring around the body. The reality is the waist is referred to in Tai Chi as the lower spine. So we feel that area as we move our body, the upper half of the body especially, because the spine drives everything else. The movements actually begin by pressing down on the floor, energy in the feet. The legs explode the energy by extending and moving that energy up the body. The waist, lower spine, acting like a whip, the large invertebrae, like the handle of a whip, accelerate the movement, and then the hand deliver the technique. So shaping the body is a function of maintaining that connected structure. So sink the chest, lower the spine, release the weight in your feet. Shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers are further forward. So we're trying to expand and hold the posture at our furthest range of motion. A gentle expansion pushes out as far as we can be, right? So just sit still in the posture, breathe deep, and allow the energy to kind of rise up within you a little bit. So nice deep breaths. Now, in working with the body's energy, it is very helpful to connect energy to breathing. So even in our stationary stillness posture we call Wuji, this framing action, we can still use our breath to guide motion and energy inside. So from here, as you breathe, feel that connection. It's as if you're breathing into your hands and breathing into your feet. The mouth is closed, the breath is in and out of the nose. We feel what's happening down deep inside. hands fall slowly. So as a training tool, that's the basic training that we like to employ prior to doing your form. It's a real good idea to stretch and warm your body up, knock that tension out of the body, and then give the brain a chance to feel the structure holistically by holding this posture for a couple, 3 minutes, and then your body will feel nice and warmed up, and it'd be a lot easier for you to feel and work with your energy. So I always like to recommend doing that. Now, let's take this feeling that we're experiencing here, and we're going to bring it into the opening posture. So when we change our position, we don't want to lose this framing. In other words, we want to keep our chest relaxed. We want to keep our waist settled, our shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers settled. So even if we let our hands fall down, I can still feel my spine more than my chest. My chest is relaxed. My waist is relaxed. Okay, so I'm going to keep that waistline settled slightly down, a little bit of a tuck. Now, even if we bring our feet close together, let's bring our feet at shoulders width. So here, the outside edge of my sneakers are roughly the outside edge of my shoulders. Now, just like we were holding a moment ago in this posture, we can emulate this for a moment. Now, from here, just come out of it slowly. And from here, we're going to hold our standing posture. The waist is settled. We still have a feeling of springiness, and the whole body is connected because we're gently lengthening the frame in a sort of a rounded-like feeling. All right, the opening. When we think of the opening, it's actually called open. And like the name implies, we're trying to open the body. When we think of the many different cycles that we experience in Tai Chi, emptiness and fullness, opening and closing is also a cycle. All of the movements in Tai Chi store energy in a closing-like fashion and then extend that energy throughout the action. So all of the movements in Tai Chi cycle through an opening and closing. So our opening movement is an example of the behavior we want to do in each of the actions. So the difference is that we're not going to have a great deal of leg movement. When we think about doing the opening, we're actually pushing down inside with a stable connected frame, but we're not going to get the benefit of bending and straightening our legs. Actually, many forms of Tai Chi do that. For example, here's another variation on the opening, just to illustrate how we might generate force. So in this case, I'm going to begin with my feet close together. And to begin the process, what we do is we're going to bend down. The weight shifts to one side. We peel the foot off the ground. We place the feet at shoulders width apart and center the body. Now my legs are bent. And in the straightening process, we would begin the action, rising that motion up within. So the point is very clearly illustrated that the feet press down. And of course, the equal and opposite of that is energy rising up. You need to be able to provide equal and opposite forces for any kind of energy that we're working with, right? Thus the yin-yang thing. There's never just one energy. There's always an equal and opposite. And it's just, simple to observe when you're doing in this posture. So the opening gives us a chance to do that kind of behavior very holistically. Now let me demonstrate for you one time. Just watch first, and then we'll build the action together. So from here is the opening. Now, if you were able to look closely, you could probably tell that there was the body driving my arms, right? The arms did not move up separately, right? It was a connected motion that began by me pressing down and supporting that rise. So the movement actually begins within the body and it shows itself externally, right? Okay, so what's the meaning of this thing? So when we think of what we're actually behaving like, imagine somebody reaching towards you with two hands. So what we're going to try to do is we want to connect to our opponent. Of course, we want to remain stable and connected ourselves before we even touch, but generally speaking, we want to touch and connect to our opponent. So as the hands are coming towards us, we're going to rotate our palms and we're going to touch with the forearm. Imagine using your forearms to touch somebody reaching to you. So by touching with your forearms, you have the freedom to still use your hands. Then you can grab and pull down. So in summary, you're intercepting, rotating, and pulling down. The unfortunate thing is that in the form itself, you don't really show the martial application like that. In the form, you're mostly working with the principles of the motion rather than too concerned about the application, how fierce the movement is. In fact, it's actually recommended that you smile and brighten your gaze in order to elevate the motion well enough for you to feel it. So this is going to have a very familiar feel to you. In fact, it's very close to shaking out a rug. So in summary, if we were going to shake out a rug, we would have that hand together, hands parallel. We would bend our legs and we would push down on the ground. We would send that wave up through our body, and then we would roll our arms and snap the energy through the rug. That's exactly the same type of wave-like motion we're doing in the opening. So we're open and close, open and close. But because it's an action, we call it opening, right? All right, so let's try together the open. Incorporating breath is helpful. Upon the hands raising, we breathe in. Upon the hands falling, we breathe out. And your goal is to feel internally. Don't mimic the outside. Draw your attention inside. So from here, with your hand by your side, bounce on your feet a little. Feel very clearly that your feet are springy. With a slight bend in your knees, with a settling of your waist, with your arms rounded by your side, your head stretched up, shoulders are a little forward, you feel the whole body connect. Take a deep breath first, expand. And upon settling of your breath, rotate your palms, press on your foot. And then elbows bend first. The body leads the action. Elbows, wrists, and fingers fall. So what I mean to say is the energy comes up inside the body and back down the body, leading the arms, guiding the arms, right? Let's try that again. A nice expansive breath. Let the breath pervade your body before you begin. So a nice deep breath. Exhale, sink the energy down on your feet. Push on your feet again. Take a deep breath. Connect the breath throughout your body. Again, take a deep breath. Now let's take that same action into the open. From here, rotate your palms, push down. Elbows, wrists, and fingers. And settle. The ending of the action, the hands are pretty parallel to the floor, just in front of the hips. The waist is settled, the knees are bent, and we've returned ourselves to the root of the action, right? Now, my recommendation to you when you're doing this action is you do it a lot of times. In other words, you want to create a reaction in your body. And by moving energy through your body a lot of times, you're going to excite the meridians and the pathways in your body. And as a result, you're going to feel that energy naturally increase and be more obvious to you. So I would recommend you do it a bunch of times, 20, 30, 40 times, whatever it takes. And in summary, just each time, just keep that wave going like you're combing your body with energy. Let's try it. From here, feet parallel, settle the waist, stretch the head, brighten your smile, extend the frame, take a deep breath, and sink your chi down into your feet. Push down. Now, normally what we would like to recommend is that you breathe naturally. And you will find that just by not doing anything deliberately, your breath will move nice and easy with your action. So don't be too concerned about timing your breath or making everything merge together. It will just actually happen naturally through time. So the main thing is to just relax, feel the body, and sort of guide the motion by internal observation. Again, hands by your side. Now, as you do this action more and more, you're going to be able to experiment with different qualities. For example, as you're raising up your hands, try to increase the brightness of your spirit. You know, a lot of times when you think of martial arts training, we try to be very, very fierce because we know that by raising up fierceness, it also impacts the energy, and we can use it a lot more effectively in our techniques. Well, imagine elevating the energy in another way by raising up a very, very happy-like spirit. Your body reacts the same way. You increase the energy reaction in your body, and it's a lot easier for you to feel and work with. Imagine that you were playing with a child, and you're standing there, and here the child would come running at you and just kind of, swing and try to, hit you in play. You could gently touch the child, move gracefully, control the child, pick the child up and hug the child, and you would be stable and connected in doing so. It's a little like that in Tai Chi. Tai Chi is like play, playfulness. Enjoy Tai Chi. Enjoy it in a childlike way. In fact, people that practice Tai Chi are called players, and we want to try to get back to that childlike energy, and one way to help us is to brighten our spirit, brighten up that smile. So throughout your practice today, I'd like you to run that through at least 10 to 15 times. Experiment with raising up the chi a little bit in your practice and see how your body reacts. Start by holding the Wuji posture and bring up the frame, and then in summary, you'll have that elevated energy and then expand like you're glowing inside. So the opening, wonderfully simple, but amazingly profound. So I want to hear about your practice. All right, now, next class, we're going to be talking about warding. Warding energy. You want to do warding now? We could do warding now. All right. We were going to get into it next class, but Bobby would like me to talk a little bit about warding now. We must have had a question on the subject. So when we think of warding, this action of raising up in the opening, the idea is that warding is the type of energy you're using, even in the opening. And the whole idea behind touching, the reason why you want to touch is because you want to understand the opponent's energy. In other words, the way that you experience and know how to react to different situations is through a tactile experience. So by touching your opponent, you're able to get that information instantly. And warding is probably the most used energy in Tai Chi. Warding is an upward expanding like force, often used to intercept punches and things like that. And so you'll see warding actions provided a lot in the form. In fact, the very first group of actions after the opening is called grasp the bird's tail, and it introduces that warding energy. Let's take a little prelude look at that, and then we'll go into a little bit more depth into our next class. So let's take a look at warding energy. Let's imagine in this case that a person's punching with their right hand. So what we want to try to do is to first put ourselves in a stable position and touch with the forward hand. And here what we're going to do, using softness to overcome hardness, we're going to yield to the incoming punch and guide it. The left hand's going to get ready by scooping underneath and lifting up and warding. So the outcome is that we'll be trapping a person over our extending arm using a warding force to manage the action. Allow me to demonstrate ward off left. So here it is. Okay. When we look at ward off left, we see we are in a standard bow stance. Let's examine that a little closer. When we think of what we're doing with our feet, we begin the action with, again, the outside edge of our sneaker is wide apart as our shoulders. The bow stance is a stance that uses the rear foot at 45 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift our weight slightly left, and we're going to open our right toe, in this case, 45 degrees away from the intended direction. Whenever we move, we want to be able to move in a very nimble way. So in summary, we put 100% of the weight over our right leg. That gives us the freedom to control the stepping leg. From here, keeping the feet shoulders width apart, we touch the heel, roll to the toe, and bend the forward knee, transferring the weight and energy forward. So that's how we operate the footwork. Let's take a look at that again. Shift left, turn right, sit on the right, free up the left, swing the heel, roll to the toe, and bend the forward knee. And there you have the bow stance. Waist technique. A little difficult to see what happens in the waist, but the waist generally leads the action. So we move the waist to the left, we turn slightly to the right, pushing on our feet. Settling the body on the right leg, keep the knee and toe in one line. We're going to turn a little bit back to the center. From here, that kind of coils and lifts that knee a little bit and tends to connect into the root. From here, the left foot goes forward, and then the left side of the body comes forward. So I'm turning my waist slightly right as I shift the weight. Kind of hard to notice that at first. So let's take a look at the waist again. From here, we're going to move left, turn right, sit on the right, stride with the left, waist a little bit left. From here, now turns right, right. One more time. Sit left, turn right, sit on the right, driving that right side a little bit, stride with the left, and shift the weight. All right. Hand techniques. Everything that you do in Tai Chi, one way or another, is a circle. Because you're working with opposite sides of a motion, we tend to support that action with an equal and opposite circle action. So in warding, the same thing. Imagine your palms are flat and that you're going to turn left. Like you're turning a steering wheel. You bring the steering wheel, bring the left hand towards you and the right hand away from you. So it's a counterclockwise circle. Now as your left hand comes towards you, we're going to lift the palm up. We're going to make that palm kind of parallel to the floor, and we're going to use the left arm to lift up with. So again, the left hand scoops to the right and lifts up. The left hand scoops to the right and lifts up in a smooth, rounded action. At the same time, the right hand goes forward. So now when the left hand gets to the right side, the right hand is forward on the center line. From here, the right hand slowly moves over the top of the forearm. Imagine I have an arm here. I'm going to guide that punch over my forearm. So it looks like their arm would be doing that, right? So we guide them over the forearm. That happens while the shift. Now let's take a look at the timing. From here, no change in the hands yet. As we move towards the right foot, drawing a circle with my waist to the left, I'm using a left hand turn to reach forward with my right and scoop with the left. From here, planting the feet, everything is ready for the shift. I push on the floor and open up the frame. So you can see, like in the opening, there is a closing effect, and then there is an opening effect, right? So in summary, the same kind of cycle of yin and yang. Let's take a look at the whole thing combined. From here, back is straight, feet shoulders width, right foot open, knee straight in one line with the toe, and bend. So when you think about what's happening in this case, we are standing slightly right of the opponent, right? The opponent is moved towards us with a strike, and we've stepped to their side to control them rather than step straight in front. So using our imagination, that kind of helps a little bit to imagine your relative position to their relationship. Now, when you think about how to react, how do you know what to do, right? Rather than guess, this is something that you're sort of also trying to make a consistent behavior out of, and that is that you always allow the opponent to move first. You never want to try to guess at what they're doing. So we want them to move first, but we arrive first once we are aware of what's being done. And once we make contact, once you touch, you're getting all kinds of information. You can tell how much force is being applied, the direction of force. You can actually tell the intention of your opponent by feeling and observing that contact surface. So in summary, we want to rely on touching the opponent. A lot of times we want to block and try to evade the situation. But in summary, touching the opponent gives us the ability to make decisions based on known information. So we got to be okay with touching the opponent. So at home, I recommend experimenting with these ideas, especially the opening where you're moving a lot of energy up through the body. I know this is new for a lot of you. So work on that. You can refer back to this later in the day as far as working with ward-off left is concerned. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Don't judge yourself. Give yourself the opportunity to slowly acquire this thing. And then you'll see that the consistency in the behavior pervades all of the actions, and it'll become very, very normal for you to assemble this training tool. All right? So for the purpose of support, if you look down in the description, we have several links for you that you can take advantage of. We have information that we're putting out on Facebook as far as our streaming goes. We also have a link to the 10 Essentials. That's sort of the recipe. You want to read through that, and I highly recommend you print it out and actually post it in an area that you train. This way, when you see it, you're more likely to, to get more and more familiar with it. It's not like you're trying to memorize it. You're trying to understand it. And through the understanding, you won't have to worry about the words anymore. It'll be a normal thing to feel and behave that way. So take advantage of those links and give us some feedback. Also, if you would like to stay in touch with a sequence of things, we're going to try to move through this in order. I highly recommend you turn on that notification and subscribe so that you'll get the heads up on it and you won't have to search around about assembling this thing. So put yourself into that. And we will do what we can to support you in the process. So we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Have a marvelous day. We'll see you then.